Sam Mewis, welcome to the Sport Profile.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you too. You are now the host of 3 podcasts. First of all, that's kind of wild. What is that like? Hosting 3?
I know. I mean, you say 3 and I'm like, wow, I feel like there's like actually countless of them because every now and then we'll just do this one-off random show. I do feel, it's a lot easier because it's all under really the same umbrella of the women's game. And so much of it is natural conversation that it's not every single show that I'm like doing deep research and having to get updated and having to have all these facts straight.
Right.
So many of it is me having a conversation with a friend. So it does feel crazy sometimes to say it out loud. Like this week, we put out an episode every single day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And when I look at that, I'm like, what's going on here? This is too much.
Damn.
But I know. I think it's probably easier than it sounds, and it's definitely a lot more fun than it sounds.
Yes, I know that well. I mean, I put out two episodes a week, and I'm like, I don't know how I do it sometimes.
Yeah.
But an episode a week, that's wild.
I know. It's definitely a lot of scheduling, and we have a big team.
Yes.
It's a lot of work. Sometimes people are staying up late, and I'm like so well aware of that. But I think the scheduling's probably the hardest part. Would you think?
I do, honestly. It'll come and go in waves for me, honestly, because I'll have like a month scheduled out, and then I'm like, all right, I could take a little bit of a step back from like reaching out to folks, and then I'm like,
totally.
Yeah, I gotta start getting up on that again.
I know. And then this is so funny. This is like such podcast host problems, but then you panic and you reach out to 3 people at once. You book them all on the same day or the same week. And so then you're in this sprint to get them done, and then you relax again.
Yes.
And it's just this never-ending cycle of 100, 0, 100, 0.
No, literally. I actually like had that thought to myself this morning. I'm like, okay, I actually need to like start reaching out again to folks for like, next month, the month after that, and starting to get like, starting to book more people. So it absolutely is the hardest part. Oh my God. Wow. Great. We can relate to that on that.
I know.
Was media always something you considered, English major at UCLA, English language and literature major. So obviously you love reading, you love storytelling.
Yeah.
Was this always a consideration for you, in addition to soccer?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think that media has just changed so much. I remember deciding to go to UCLA, deciding to be an English major, mostly just because of my other obligations as an athlete. Like I didn't necessarily want to go back to school, and English seemed like one of those majors that I could do and could succeed at and would not, hate doing. I did really like it. And there was part of me that was always like, yeah, maybe I'll be a journalist someday. And that's where I kind of think, as media has changed, podcasts have, become like a really popular way of getting news and information.
Yeah.
As social media has changed, I feel like a job like what I'm doing now has kind of opened up in a way that somebody like me could actually do it. I think that there were always signs that I was wanting to like maybe lightly report on and interview people. In college, I had this little blog called Muse Views that the UCLA like athletics website published. And it's so funny. I was just with my college friends this past weekend, and they were like kind of joking around about how my new job is just an updated version of Muse Views.
In a way.
So it's funny because it's not like I was ever like, I want to be a podcast host on a women's soccer vertical across podcasts, YouTube, social media. But I was always like, I want to storytell, and I want to talk to my teammates, and I want to kind of share what this is like with the rest of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I read that you obviously have a lot of fun with it, but you have fun with it because you're almost talking about your teammates, and they're very good, so it makes it easier to do so.
Yeah, I know. It's really funny. I was just recording a podcast with my sister this morning, and we were just laughing about a story we were telling about her visiting me with her baby. And I was just like, I'm at work right now. This is my job, is to just make jokes with my sister about her visit. And I think, there is this really special thing I'm trying to capture, which is just the relationship between me and my sister, the relationship between me and my friends, my co-hosts on one of our podcasts, Lynn Biondolo and Becky Sauerbrunn. It is so much our friendship that makes the show good.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel like work most of the time when it's people like that I'm talking to.
No, and that makes sense. And obviously the topics you're talking about, you've all related to, you've all been, you've all experienced that before too. Being on this side of things in media now, in content, in interviewing and storytelling, what is your perception now versus when you were a player? I'm very, very curious about that because as a player, you're getting asked questions, obviously. Now you're creating the thing, you're creating the product. You have such an influence now with Men in Blazers.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think my perspective has changed a little bit, but maybe not as much as you would expect. I feel.
Oh, please tell me, because this is very interesting now.
I think as a player, you view the media as this thing that you have to do. And I, at the time in my career, didn't necessarily see media as the tool that it could have been. I think that having an online presence, social media was starting to be, oh, this could be really valuable. This is a really great way to connect with fans. But I didn't necessarily take full advantage of, what I would call like traditional media opportunities, a way to get in front of new eyeballs, new fans, new audiences, and really connect there. I think there's also, as a player, a hesitation to be yourself and a hesitation to be totally vulnerable and totally honest, because every athlete has had a quote or a story changed a little bit or twisted a little bit or had a headline pulled out that they didn't feel represented what they said or what they meant or who they are. And so as I've made this transition, I feel like my number one priority, even when I was still playing, I started a podcast, and that at that time was a way to kind of own that narrative and have the story be out of my own mouth in my own words. My own podcast company wasn't going to pull a headline from my own podcast that would make me look bad.
Right.
And so it was a way of kind of taking back that control during a time where like the world was changing really fast, and I still wanted to be myself and I still wanted to connect with an audience, but I wanted to kind of do it on my terms. Where I am now, I want to be that place for athletes that doesn't pull their quotes and take them out of context, that doesn't make them feel uncomfortable, that doesn't ask questions that are maybe over the line, and also that protects them. Like, I'll have open conversations on a Riverside recording about if we should include something the way the athlete phrased it or not. I want to protect them. I think that we'll get the best interviews, and I think that we'll get the most support from them if they look good and feel good and want to come on. That's really a lesson that I learned from the founder of Men in Blazers, Roger Bennett, who every time he has somebody on, he goes, my goal is to make you look great. My goal is not to get this crazy pull quote that like now becomes a newspaper headline. I just want this athlete to come on and tell their story and for the audience to know them and love them. That's the ultimate goal.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's so important because it's such a unique perspective that you bring. And you even said, you like answered a question that I was going to ask, which was like, if you had ever had a discussion with somebody where it was like, hey, I think we should phrase this a certain way because this is how an athlete might actually feel on the receiving end. And you've said you've done that, which was like so telling because it shows how like you prioritize that genuine authenticity from the perspective that you have as an ex-athlete that people, growing up in media don't always.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know how it feels as a player to have my injury talked about without a lot of care, to have personal information shared before I was ready to have it shared. And so I think that while we are, a kind of a news outlet at times, and there is information that it's, you want to be quick to get it out and you want to be quick to report on it. I think we handle those things with like a lot of human care and a lot of like conscientiousness for these players as people, and everybody on my team really has that kind of top of mind as we work.
Oh, 100%. I mean, as you should. And I think I just wish that's something that everybody prioritized a hell of a lot more. The athlete reporter and like just athlete media relationship, and coaches too, by the way, they're not immune from this at all. I wish that authenticity and that care was prioritized more.
I know. And it's funny. This was kind of what I meant when I said my perspective has opened up a little bit, but it hasn't changed at its core.
Yeah.
Where like I see the temptation. Like I see, we are monitoring our social media growth, and we're monitoring how many downloads we get, and I see the temptation to post something really quickly and to post the thing that is going to get the most views. And I think that's something as a company you're balancing with. Well, we are a company led with empathy and with humanity. And so, the temptation is there and it exists. And, the bottom line is there and it exists. But I think that we are trying and hopefully doing a good job at kind of putting people first.
Yeah, 100%. Was it a hard transition at first for you? I know you announced, like, when you announced your retirement, you announced, like, the same time that you were joining Men in Blazers.
I did. Yeah. I think that the retiring was a hard decision.
Of course.
I didn't really have much of a choice. My knee was no longer going to be able to play soccer at that level, but I had kind of a long time to come around to that. I had started podcasting already. I had started doing work with Men in Blazers already. And so it felt like as I was closing one door, the next one was opening, and it just made sense to kind of announce all of that at once.
Right.
And I think diving into something new helped me move on. It was kind of, I had been slowly ripping the Band-Aid off for like a year, 2 years.
Yeah, I remember.
I knew for a long time that playing wasn't in the cards, and I couldn't really accept it or take a step forward. And so I think getting this job was like, well, you're stepping forward now. You have work to do. The transition, I think it's funny to go from being a professional athlete to having like a job. Like I got used to Slack, and I got used to a Google Calendar, and I got used to watching games with a different intention behind it. I got used to networking differently, and I really had to train myself to be like, oh, I'm Sam Mewis. I'm the editor-in-chief of the women's game. This is what we are.
Like you updated your LinkedIn about it too.
Totally, yeah. So it kind of felt like this like big girl step forward into like my next career, and I've had so much support. I mean, the transition from being a professional athlete into doing anything else, I think is probably one of the hardest transitions that an athlete can do. And I want there to be more support around that. But I think that, all the people at Men in Blazers in the women's game who've helped me kind of transition into this and not just keep it going, but grow it and expand it a ton. I feel so grateful for that. And I wish every athlete had that kind of opportunity as their playing career comes to an end.
Right. I've heard a lot of athletes say both college athletes, professional athletes, that like once they're done, once their playing career is over, like they still have that athlete mindset, that schedule, the need for the just intense regiment of like working out or just staying active. Obviously you mentioned with the injuries that wasn't going to be the case for you in the immediate, obviously. Does that athlete mentality apply to this for you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think like interviewing is such a skill, and while it's so interesting, like I think interviewing is a skill, but I also think like hosting and co-hosting is a skill where you have to give context to what you're talking about. You can't just be joking around with your friend about an inside joke and the audience is like, what are these people talking about? You have to open up that lens. I think I have, just like how I was in soccer, I really need to work on my left-footed crossing. I'm going to go out and I'm going to hit 100 of them after training for 3 weeks, and I'm going to get better at it. Interviewing is like that. The skill of having a conversation that is thoughtful and funny and relatable and accessible, knowing what question to ask next. And so I find when I listen to other podcasts, when I watch, people being interviewed on YouTube, I'm more listening to the host than the guest, and I'm putting myself in the situation of what follow-up question would I ask there. I love watching, when I watch the U.S. Women's National Team play, I love watching the broadcast desk because I love seeing how they're talking about the game, how they're opening up that lens, how they're making a really detailed tactical analysis, something that anybody watching at home on the couch can understand, can be thoughtful about, can relate to, can see. So I feel like I have taken this job as a skill in the same way that I tried to, grow my skills on the field.
Right. And that makes sense too. It's so interesting that like I talked about perspectives a lot just because of the unique opportunity that you have, obviously. But even what you just said there, you're watching the hosts interview players. You know, you're watching how the soccer media landscape is covering the former team you played for and also the league in the NWSL. Now you're viewing it from a media lens, not just the player lens. That's got to be a very interesting dynamic for you.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think, you know, again, I try to, you know, see it all through the athlete's perspective as well. But I think hosting and producing and interviewing and, you know, making content in this way has just become something that I want to get better at.
Yeah.
So that I can really do justice to the stories of the athletes. I know, you know, especially going through like a knee injury like I had, I don't know that I ever like could have told that story well enough to a reporter or to an interviewer. Like I always felt like I had to kind of skate around the truth and skate around how bad it was really hurting me. And I would love to help an athlete someday tell a story that they feel has not been told the way they want it.
That's so interesting. And I, you know, for one, really appreciate that honesty because it helps folks in media be more conscientious about what actually the mindset is like of an athlete, what they're comfortable with versus what they aren't. But, you know, you mentioned that type of story. I'm curious, like, you know, you've been in this role for a little while now. What are some of your favorite stories to tell? What are some of the like topics that you really want to lean into?
Yeah, injury is definitely one of them. I mean, I think that athletes have such unique relationships with their bodies and being physically unable to do the thing that you get paid to do, that you love to do, that gives your day purpose is really hard. And I think a lot of athletes have to go through, they find different ways of coping with that. So injury is always an emotional topic that I think a lot can be like drawn from. I really like hearing about people's families and the influence that has had on their careers. It's the best when, you know, you go, who did you call first when you got your US women's national team call up? And they laugh and they have a funny story about getting to tell their parents or their sibling, and people think that they were just kidding. And it's such a dream come true moment that getting to ask about that and always just hearing like this is a memory you and your family will tell like forever. So kind of getting in on some of those. And then I also really like asking, you know, I know what it's like to be in an NWSL locker room, to be in the national team locker room, but asking about the friendships of these players. The women that I played soccer with are still the closest people to me in my life. And so hearing from a young player or from a really popular, famous player who their best friend is and what they like to do and what it's like in the locker room, the things that they laugh about, I think sharing that kind of personality and humanness with their fans is exactly why we love watching women's soccer. We feel like we know the players. They give so much of their personality. And so kind of just breaking down that wall and laughing with somebody about their friends and what they like to cook for dinner and things like that, I think are just so fun and relatable.
Well, I mean, I had all of that planned to ask, but Sam Mewis, what do you like to cook for dinner?
What do I like to cook for dinner? I have a great salmon recipe.
Ooh, please
with
tell.
like this little green chili, lime. We put it on rice, and then we like really thinly chop carrots, peppers, and cucumbers. And it's this little healthy but easy weeknight meal. That's kind of one of my go-to dinners.
Very cool. I make honey hot salmon bites
very
often.
Yum. Do you use the air fryer for that?
You better believe I do.
It sounded like it. That sounds really good.
Yes. Oh my goodness. First of all, I cannot live without an air fryer. I think I don't know what I would do. I mean, listen, I cook beyond the air fryer. I can go beyond that. I can go beyond boiling water and pasta. Okay. But honey hot salmon bites also very, very easy. For me, another one was hummus pasta. That's been really good.
Wow, I've
over
never
the years.
even heard of the hummus pasta.
Oh yeah, you just use the hummus as a pasta sauce. You know, you thin it out with like
some pasta water.
Yeah, you thin it out with pasta water. You know, you got to let it simmer a little bit so it doesn't like thicken up or become soupy, if you will. But like once you get your consistency right, like you're good.
Wow. Okay, what a good one. I'll have to give that a try.
Oh my God, yeah, definitely. I mean, what else are you doing to really stay true to yourself and stay grounded, stay motivated? I mean, we know you're locked in hosting as many shows as you do. and the work that you do, obviously. But aside from cooking those meals, which I'm actually going to try now, that salmon recipe sounds amazing. So we'll report back. But what else are you doing to really stay grounded, stay true to yourself?
Yeah. Well, I have 2 dogs. I have a 6-year-old Cavapoo named Finn, who's like the love of my life. We got him during COVID. He's just like my baby. And then we also have this puppy, Chester. He's a golden doodle. He's 1. He's crazy and he takes up a lot of my time because he's been a very demanding puppy.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
So I mean, walking with the dogs is it's in my routine every day. It definitely grounds me. It definitely it's one of those things where if I have not walked with the dogs, I don't feel like I can really get started. So I usually do it first thing in the morning. And I do love exercise. I don't run anymore because of my knee, but I swim, I bike, I lift weights. I've been going to some yoga and Pilates classes, which have been humbling, but really, really fun. So I still love to move my body in lots of different ways. And I think, even though it's not soccer, it still makes me feel, positive, energized, connected to my body. And that's definitely something that, helps me stay focused.
Are you the type of person that needs to meet a walking goal every day?
I mean, I would love to. I would love to get 10,000 steps, but I don't necessarily always track it. I think,
sure.
I kind of can feel it,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I honestly, my dad and I did this for a little bit. We tried to guess a little bit. And I would love it if we were really close or way off. How you just said, you could feel it.
Yeah.
You feel like you got 7K.
Yeah.
But you actually got 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you must be, if you're feeling that, you must be doing something with your brain that you're just like, wow, I was doing my thinking steps. That's what I was doing.
Thinking steps. Yeah. Well, if we're talking thinking steps, I'm probably around 50K.
Whoa.
Those don't stop. The way my brain's firing, that's just not stopping.
I know what you mean.
Oh man, I obviously cannot interview you without asking about the NWSL and the upcoming World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
NWSL is growing rapidly. There's going to be a few new teams by I think 28.
Yep.
Yesterday Columbus was just Columbus. Yeah, Columbus.
Columbus
Was just announced. Atlanta's coming in 2028. Playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I heard, there's a couple expansion teams this season in, Denver, Boston. What's it like seeing the league grow?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. Honestly, I think there are some people who would caution against growing too quickly. 2028, that'll be 18 teams, which is a lot. When I joined the league, I don't know, I want to say maybe there was 10 or less.
Really?
And so it's fast growth, but I think that it is growing, kind of in conjunction with the explosion of interest and popularity. And I am so proud of the leaps and bounds that this league has taken. I think that seeing an expansion team like Denver break the attendance record in their home opener, they had over 60,000 people there.
Yeah.
Seeing just the excitement from fans. I'm from the Boston area, and so I got to go to the Boston Legacy's home opener, and everybody was so happy. Everybody is so excited, and I think that is just going to lead to more and more business opportunities for the league and better pay and standards and conditions for all of the players. And I think the ultimate goal is to have more and more girls and women in sports, more and more girls and women playing soccer. So I think the growth, is all wonderful and positive, and I just hope, everyone continues to grow sustainably. Sometimes I think we get so excited about the expansion teams, as we should.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that we are continuing to take care of and hold to a high standard some of the teams that are coming in at the bottom of the table year after year. I want the players on those teams to also have excitement around them and also have innovation around them. Are their owners really pushing to play in the best stadium, to have the best training facility, to hire the best coaches, to hire the best medical staff? So while we look to the future and we look to the top, sometimes I just like to remind everybody that we have to make sure the bottom is coming up with us.
Yeah, that's a very good reminder, actually. It kind of even leads me into the next question, and it might even, preemptively answer it, but my question was going to be from a media standpoint, now that you are, involved in media for a few years now, with these teams coming up, what would your hope be that the media coverage looks like? Like, how can, I guess, sports media in general, or soccer media more specifically, how can they get it right when covering the expansion teams? Like, what would you like to see happen in the immediate there?
Yeah, I mean, I think about a team like Denver, a team like the Kansas City Current, who, when you're in that city, you know about the team. When
Yeah.
you're in Kansas City, if you have not noticed the Kansas City Current tram or the signage or the building of the stadium or the billboards of the players when you drive on the highway, if you haven't noticed that, then you're not noticing that much. Like, it's so prevalent. It is such great marketing. And
Right.
and I was on Kansas City. I lived there for a year. Walking down the street, I feel like the average person at least knew what the Current was,
Sure.
in the same way that they knew who the Chiefs were. And that's where I'm like, the marketing and the coverage and the ability for a team, a club team, to get their name out there, to get their players' stories out there, is so important, because we want to grow this audience base. And you just can't do that if people don't know about it. And so those teams, I think, are such great examples of how to market to your city. And the way I think that we can help with that at the women's game, we're not necessarily centralized in any one city, but
Sure.
I feel like we have listeners from all over, and I want to tell the stories of players on each NWSL team. I want to tell their stories in a way that, if you're already a fan of that club, or even if you're not, now when you watch that team play, you look at that person and you say, oh, I know something about her now that I didn't before. It makes you like her more. It makes you cheer for her more. And that's something that's really important to me, is instead of watching with this zoomed out perspective of, we're just watching Louisville versus the Spirit, I don't really know anything about anybody. I want you to feel like you know a lot about those players, because you've listened to them talk. You've heard what makes them tick. You've heard what they're passionate about.
Right.
You've heard the story of the first call up to the U.S. Women's National Team. It makes you love them. So I think that that's really the power of a good interview, the power of good storytelling, the power of media really doing its job to connect players to fans.
Yeah. It's really interesting you say all of that, because one, it's true. Two, there's always a need for it. But when you were even in your playing career then, were there things or topics that, maybe you wish people would have asked about you, or even is there a story about you that, maybe you wish got more attention than it did?
That's an interesting question. It's funny. I think, one of the things that always did get asked was about me and my sister, who my sister and I both played in the NWSL at the same time.
Right.
We even, went to a couple national team camps in the 2021 Olympics together. So I always got asked about it in, this is the question everybody's always going to ask. What's it like to play with your sister? But I think there was so much more we could have done with it. Like, I see the way Alyssa and Giselle Thompson are now. They are making TikToks together in camp. They do brand deals together. They have their own identities. They're on different club teams. They're doing their own thing, but they are so known as the Thompson sisters. They're taking full advantage of every opportunity.
Right.
And I do think, they are incredible players. They do and will deserve every single story that gets told about them, every brand deal they get. I think Christy and I ourselves could have taken more advantage of it. I think that I wished it had been more out there in the marketplace, more of this exciting potential thing. Could they make the Olympics together? Wouldn't that be so cool? How can we take advantage of that? But I think it's a good thing, a signal of the growth of the landscape, a signal of the growth of there are more eyeballs on this. It is more profitable.
Yeah.
And the Thompson sisters are so good, and they are going to be playing together on the national team, I think, for a very long time.
Of course. Is Giselle on the national team now? I know Alyssa is. She is?
Yeah.
Oh,
they started 2 games together this last international window against Japan.
Oh my gosh. That's
know.
awesome.
It's really
I know
cool.
for a while I think it was just Alyssa on.
Yeah, Alyssa's a little bit older. Giselle has been called up more recently. But Giselle's doing great. She had a really great camp.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I mean, Women's World Cup is 27.
Mm-hmm.
What are your early thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited at the women's game. We are definitely starting to get prepared. The Men's World Cup is coming up this summer, which is a huge thing for our company. Obviously being like I think it's the largest independent soccer company in America.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to fact check me on that. But so the Men's World Cup being here is huge. I know we're releasing like a ton of content and have just plans to kind of be in every city doing live shows. We're starting to get ready for the Women's World Cup as well. That's going to be in Brazil. There's going to be some great competition as always. You know, we just had these 3 games against Japan, and I thought that we were probably the better team overall. We won 2 of the games, lost the one in the middle. I think the depth of our team is really, really impressive, and they are continuing to just grow and learn with every camp and honestly every game that they're playing for their club teams. But, you know, Spain is really good. England is really good. This team in Brazil that's hosting is going to be really, really good, and they're going to be difficult to beat on home soil. Australia can always come out and surprise you. So there are definitely some incredible teams. And as the game continues to grow, it kind of just becomes a little bit more unpredictable what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true too. You mentioned before even about how you're still very close with, you know, a lot of the players that you played with. What's your dynamic like with this current team now? I know, you know, Emily Sonnet, Rose Lavelle, former teammates of yours that are now still on the roster. What's your relationship like with this current team?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely still am close with some of those girls that you mentioned, Rose and Sonnet, Lynn Biandola, who's out on maternity leave right now, but I'm hoping she'll be back for the World Cup.
Of course.
I do a podcast for the women's game with Lindsay Heaps, the captain. And so, I mean, that's been incredible. I think that we do a lot of coverage of this team. But, you know, as years go by and I'm no longer playing for them, I do find that I know less and less of them personally.
Is that a weird feeling?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is a weird feeling. I think there's also this like kind of funny dynamic where I will be talking with Rose or Sonnet and I want to know information for work, but I would never ask them. I would never put them in that situation.
Yeah, of course.
So then there is this kind of line of just like, well, we're not going to, you know, we don't really need to talk about that in detail. And if they ever did share anything with me, there is just a line with my friends that I know not to cross, and my relationships with them are super important, super sacred. It's fun. I mean, I get to hear some inside stories. I get to report on some inside stories. But I definitely, you know, the relationship to the team is becoming less friend and former teammate and more I'm covering the team. Like, I'm the media. Like, you kind of have to have a little bit of a lineup, you know?
Yeah, imagine Sam Mewis going through the PR people to talk to her own teammates or her own ex-teammates.
Well, I do. I do. I send emails to their PR people and I say, I'd love to talk to Rose.
It's like, well, I just talked to her yesterday, actually.
I go, she told me she'd come on, but I just wanted to do this the professional way.
I love that. Even athletes have to deal with the PR people, too. Who are great people, by the way. Make no mistake about it. Love all of them. Oh, man, Sam, this has been so awesome. But the last question I always do ask everybody is just your work in media aside, your work with Men in Blazers aside, and your playing career aside, just really you as a person. Sam Mewis, what's something you like most or admire about yourself?
Oh, what a great question. You know, I think that I have always been really like resourceful. I think it's, you know, I'm so fortunate. I've had such a great life, such a great soccer career. I think in my hardest moments, like going through what I went through with my knee, even in, you know, things in my personal life, whenever I feel stuck or encountered with a problem or adversity, I usually find that when I look back on a difficult time, I was able to just figure things out and sort things out and use the resources at my disposal and make the calls I need to make and do the hard tasks that I need to do. I feel like I have, in a good way, like a one-track mind when it comes to solving problems, and that resourcefulness and that ability to just kind of like plow ahead is something I like about myself.
Sure. I love that, Sam. I really do. May we continue to be resourceful, have those authentic conversations, and just be genuine with every conversation we have, whether it's with an athlete, a friend, a sister across the pond, or anything that we're doing. Sam Mewis, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.